I love jazz because it's a very personal expression of how you're feeling. It's a great outlet and also a great way to communicate with people. And even without an audience, it's great for jazz musicians to have a conversation, a musical conversation. I really started becoming interested in jazz because my dad was a big band fan of singers like Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Ella Fitzgerald, the Count Basie Orchestra, the Duke Ellington Orchestra. That really was infectious to me as a little kid, listening to all that music growing up and watching him drum on the floor with a pair of drumsticks. And then shortly thereafter, by the time I was in 4th grade and we were able to choose a musical instrument, I chose the trumpet at his suggestion. I had come off the road with my first band from college, from Bucknell University. By the beginning of '78, I was already playing at the Village Gate in a big band and living in an apartment down the block. And then by that fall, I kind of outgrew the apartment and got myself a loft in the East Village at 50 Cooper Square, right across the street from Cooper Union. I was looking to be able to have a creative environment in which to learn more about jazz and my instrument, the trumpet, and I wound up being able to play every day and every night without bothering neighbors. It was great. And I invited many musicians in to hang out, and we had parties and jam sessions and my big band rehearsals. And then it seemed like, you know what, this might be able to fly as a business. And by June of 1979, I decided to open to the public. So I took out an ad in the Village Voice, and 2 weeks later I was open as the Jazz Forum. And people were coming from Japan, Europe, Australia, all over the world that heard about us. And we got quite an international following. And I would have people from Japan calling me, you know, who do you have playing? I say, Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. I will be there this weekend. And they would literally fly from Tokyo to catch Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers in my loft in Greenwich Village. That's when I knew I was onto something. My landlord was not renewing leases all the way down the block at Cooper Square. When we found out that we were not going to be able to stay there, I started looking for a new spot. And I wound up finding a great, complete 5th floor loft, 5,000 square feet. It had been the Reggae Lounge at 648 Broadway at Bleecker, in a building that was a manufacturing building with sweatshops. It took us 3 weeks to build the place, and then we reopened with the second Jazz Forum in the end of January, beginning of February 1981. Some people said that it had all the charm of a gigantic coal bin. It was basically a raw space with exposed brick walls, 12-foot ceilings and columns, and everything else we had to bring in and make. So that's when I made the bar with Tony Giuliano, my partner. That's when we made the rooms in the back, which we had a recording studio and my office and a musician's lounge and a bathroom, literally building in a raw space to establish a convivial, intimate atmosphere in which artists can feel comfortable to create. At the end of 2.5 years at Broadway and Bleecker, things were not looking great financially. It was tough times in the early '80s, and I had owed my landlord a month's rent. And my good friends at the time, Wynton Marsalis and Art Blakey, had offered to lend me 3 months worth of rent to give to the landlord, but he wouldn't hear us. So he wound up summarily evicting me, which means that essentially the guy who ran the elevator, the freight elevator, slipped me an envelope which was a 72-hour eviction notice at the 72nd hour. So when I left moments later, my locks were changed, and I wound up having to break in and get a moving company to move my Steinway Grand, the same piano you see sitting here behind me, and saved that and moved it over to my apartment. When I got kicked out of the Second Jazz Forum at Broadway and Bleecker, I resurfaced one day later at the Village Gate and produced with Art DeLugoff for 3 or 4 months. Then met my wife, Ellen, moved to the Upper West Side and started Riverside Park Arts Festival, which ran for 13 years, and that was produced by Jazz Forum Arts, which was brand new in 1985. Jazz Forum Arts now has a 31-year-old not-for-profit arts presenting organization. Our mission is to present top-quality arts events to the public at little or no cost while enhancing the appreciation of jazz. We produce 36 free concerts every summer in local communities, Dobbs Ferry, Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow, Ossining, and various river communities mostly. The concerts in the summer are really a mainstay of the community activities here in the river towns. We get anywhere from 700 to 1,000 people, generally in good weather, per concert at some of our larger venues, Dobbs Ferry Waterfront Park and Lyndhurst specifically. And people bring a picnic and they hang out with their neighbors, and it's just a wonderful camaraderie that exists where you can listen to great music, have lovely food and wine on the banks of the Hudson River. And so it all works together to create a wonderful sense of community and enjoyment for the greater audience in Westchester. Ellen and I decided to downsize and move from Dobbs Ferry. Our kids are now 27 and 22. And we thought, okay, not that we're going to retire, but we just wanted to have a change of lifestyle and less overhead and all of that. But instead, we wound up buying a larger commercial building, 1910, former bakery. And we're living upstairs and transforming a 3,700 square foot ground floor commercial space into a 100-seat jazz club and restaurant and bar. So this has been a major challenge, but we're very excited to unveil it in the middle of March for the enjoyment and listening pleasure of our audiences here in Westchester. Welcome to what will be the new Jazz Forum at 1 Dixon Lane, Tarrytown. So people will come in over here at our new entrance and come right into the club, which is down here. And as they enter, if it's inclement weather, they'll be able to store their coats in the coat check room. And if they're interested in artist CDs and t-shirts and sweatshirts, we'll have all of that over here. As they come into the club, a host or hostess will be able to seat them. We'll have tables and chairs all over here in this area. The washer and dryer will not be here, not during the club. And as you come into the place, there'll be a wonderful bar over here. Got this bar sink out in Brooklyn the other day. So we're going to have a beautiful bar here made of this black walnut. And this is inlaid black walnut, and Jeff Johnson, the artisan from Poughkeepsie, New York, is building the bar, and he also built the tables. And there'll be a dry bar over here also where there'll be bar stools, and people will have an amazing view of the music. And that's my Steinway grand piano under wraps there, so it doesn't get dust on it. And that's the same Steinway that I had at the Second Jazz Forum at Broadway and Bleecker from 1981. So it's been played by a lot of people over the last 35 years. I think why I'm excited to return to the roots is because jazz thrives in an intimate atmosphere. And we're going to have a 100-seat jazz club here in Tarrytown. And no person attending the performance will be more than 35 feet from the bandstand. And so with that kind of intimacy, often magic does happen. And so that's why it's a really nice thing to do, especially coming off of over 2 decades of large concert presentations. It's not so much that I would describe what I do as loving the organization of a concert and, presentation, because it's a lot of hard work. What I do love is turning people onto the music. And as a result of the hard work, many times we have a great musical experience. Sometimes magic occurs, and the audience is able to take part in that and participate and enjoy it. So that is really kind of the end game of the presentations. And here at the new Jazz Forum Club, we're going to do that on a much more intimate scale than the large concert hall presentations I've been used to for the last 20, 25 years. So I'm really getting back to my roots of when I started the Jazz Forum Club in Greenwich Village in a small loft.